Today, we become legends.
With patch CA1 and the launch of 24/7, Smite 2 is in a pretty good place considering it's an alpha and is heading in the right direction. The core feel is much crisper and closer to Smite 1, the item pool is much more varied and interesting, starter items are back, the environment looks better, key progression systems are beginning to make their way in, but there's still one glaring flaw that is holding the game back: the matchmaking and overall match quality. It's arguably the single most important part of Smite. The game can be fun as heck, the monetization can be fair as heck, the game can look good as heck, the pro scene can be popping, but if every other match is this, or this, or this, then the game won't be fun to play. I get it, not all the systems are in place yet for the new matchmaking that they have planned. Role queue is coming next patch and that should help out at least a little in terms of players getting their preferred roles more often and players trolling or AFKing because they didn't get their preferred role less often. But as it stands at the moment, every match is basically a coin flip on if one team is going to have a leaver, a troll, or one or multiple people that are clearly mismatched to such a degree that it completely destroys the integrity of the match. I get it, it's a new game and everyone is starting fresh at 0 MMR, so there will be cases where someone has just logged in for their first game and was a Grandmaster in Smite 1, and someone else has just logged in for their first game and has never played a single MOBA in their life, let alone played Smite 1. These things I expect to happen, but not as often as they have been and not for as long. You would hope the matchmaking system would somewhat quickly realize at least roughly where a player should be. Sure, the game has only been open about a week and maybe it will sort itself out given time, but given the fact that matchmaking for ranked is essentially not even on at the moment, with the top 100 players in the world being placed with people at literally 0 MMR, this presents a significant hurdle for Smite 2 to overcome if it wants to retain players. As I said, I understand if two players of vastly different skill levels but of equal Smite 2 MMR are put together. The system just hasn't updated them yet, and it's an unfortunate side effect of a complete and total hard reset of MMR for the new game. But that's not the only time these horrifically mismatched games are happening. It's also true that players with massively mismatched Smite 2 MMR are being put together, which is a clear fundamental flaw in the system and not just a byproduct of the reset. Take a look at this match from Adapting, a two-time world champion of Smite 1 and current champion of EMEA in Smite 2. Granted, he was likely duo queuing with Coast here, and party queue rank deliberately allows massive skill gaps between his party members, but these two alone have more MMR than not just the rest of their own team, not just the entire enemy team, but the entire lobby combined. Could it be an artifact of what I mentioned before about the hard reset causing unavoidable issues? Sure, but looking at the KDAs and damage numbers definitely calls that into question. Zeus was 0-11 with 7k player damage in 40 minutes. Bologna was 1-9 with 6k player damage in 40 minutes. Even two pro players couldn't carry these guys to victory and they still lost. I don't say that to be mean to them. It's not their fault they were put in this lobby. I say it to point out the absolutely horrendous matchmaking that is currently holding Smite 2 back. Again, I know it's party queue and maybe Adapting and Coast were deliberately given worse teammates to compensate for the overall lower MMR of their opponents compared to them to try and make a balanced game where the average team MMR was roughly equal. But even if that is the case here and the system is working as intended for party queue, that's not a good way to do matchmaking. Putting two insanely good players with 3 trash players against 5 average players is not a good, fair, or fun match for anyone involved. The trash players are going to get stomped by the average players and the average players are going to get stomped by the pro players. Here's another, this time from Nika, who's a reigning world champion of Smite 1. The site I'm using here, tracker.gg, is, as far as I'm aware, the only way to track this stuff, and it unfortunately doesn't show if it was party queue or solo queue. But this game just should not happen regardless of which queue type it is. No data on their rank means it was these 3 players' first ever ranked game, which you can verify by checking their profiles. This team with a combined total of 14,000 SR was put up against this sorry lot, 3 of which literally were on their first ranked game ever, and the 2 that had played before were both noticeably lower than even the lowest SR player on Nika's team and astronomically lower than the highest. As you would expect, this game was surrendered after just 16 minutes without a single kill for the losing team. Again, I'm not doing this to shit on the losing players, nor am I doing it to shit on Nika and his teammates for getting free wins. It's neither of their faults. I'm doing it to point out the massive flaw in Smite 2 that is bringing the entire experience down when so many other aspects of the game are amazing and only getting better. These aren't just cherry-picked isolated incidents either. Here's another one, and 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 another, and another, and another. At the moment, it truly feels like more games are like these than are actually fair and fun with at least a chance of winning for both teams. As I've said multiple times already in this video, I'm sure at least some of these problems are just teething issues that will get better over time as people play more games, get closer to their true SR level, and less people who are on their first ever ranked game will be queuing, which is naturally going to cause issues as the system has no idea where they should be. But I don't think that's the only problem, as there are plenty of matches where all players in the lobby have dozens of games under their belt and the match is still horrendously imbalanced. This is something the devs over at Titanforge really need to put all their focus on at the moment, in my opinion. New content is amazing, everyone is waiting with heavy anticipation for their main to come to the sequel, and there's still plenty to be done on the core game, new game modes to add, new systems to implement, etc. But with a competitive game like Smite, it's essential to get matchmaking into at least a decent spot so that people can have a fun and fair experience when playing the actual game. I'm not asking for perfection here. Smite 1's matchmaking has had its issues for the entire life cycle of that game, but Smite 2's current matchmaking is 10 times worse than Smite 1's ever was, and honestly it feels more random than anything else. Getting matchmaking to even close to what Smite 1 currently is would be a godsend for the game right now, and I take no joy in making this video given the large strides that have been made on the core game and content in recent months. The game is fun as hell and is shaping up to be a genuine massive upgrade to Smite 1 in my opinion, but the matchmaking is just holding it back massively at the moment. And hopefully with some more time to adjust, some improvements to the system and new features like roll queue and roll MMR, it will get better sooner rather than later. Okay, that's where the initial draft of this video ends, but during editing, Innocent Rabbit, the lead matchmaking dev on Smite 2, released a tweet saying some changes have been deployed for matchmaking and that more info is coming soon on how they're going to move forward with it. I will say from a brief look at some of the top players' recent matches after this patch was dropped, they do seem marginally better than they were before. For example, this game from Shinto is still horrendously imbalanced, but at the very least there aren't any people on their first ever ranked game in it, though there is still an Amber player with under 500 SR in a lobby with the literal #1 rated player in the world who has more than 7,000 SR. So these changes do seem to have made some impact, but it's far from completely fixing the matchmaking issues currently plaguing Smite 2. Just thought I'd add this into the video after the fact. Catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.